The following program is brought to you by the Midas Gold Group.
This is the Gold Standard from the Midas Gold Group with Kenneth Russo. Hello, I'm Dave Deno. Welcome to the Gold Standard, your source for secure investment advice and information on the advantages of purchasing and owning precious metals. Whether you're a novice investor or an experienced collector, this is the program that gives you a weekly, realistic perspective on the state of the economy, reliable information about using precious metals such as gold, silver, and platinum to safeguard your wealth, and remarkable details about specific precious metal coins and bullion. Ken Russo is a senior vice president at the Midas Gold Group. His peers characterize him as a straight shooter who will work harder for you than anyone else. Today, the topic on the table is the falling dollar, a threat to every American. First of all, Ken, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to be with us today.
I'm very happy to be with you today, Dave, and our audience.
Ken, the economy seems to be opening up. Employment figures are growing and commerce appears to be, more robust. But the dollar is not keeping pace. Ken, maybe you start us out in our time together with a brief history of the dollar over the past 120 years and how it's faring today.
Yeah, Dave, and I would say that the economy is improving, but I would also say that the last 20 years has been artificially thrown out there as being very healthy and good organic growth. It really hasn't been. It's been debt and the creation of debt and the ability for the Federal Reserve Bank to keep interest rates low. The Federal Reserve Bank was formed in 1913. And in 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, through Executive Order 6102, attempted to make the ownership of owning gold illegal.
Wow.
They needed the government the ability to print money. They needed to print more money than they had gold. And at that time, gold backed every dollar that was out there. It wasn't just paper currency as it is today. In 1972, Richard Nixon totally abandoned the gold standard, and the dollar was now backed by nothing but debt. And we entered a fiat currency system. Fiat currency is paper currency from every country, where currencies are allowed to float against one another in value backed by nothing. And unfortunately, that fiat currency experiment started 50 years ago is in its final stages and it's failing. And we can get a little bit more into that.
I remember growing up and seeing my dollar bills and $5 bills, etc., with the words silver certificate on them. You don't see that anymore, right?
Well, no. And that's the problem. We have a system where the dollar's backed by nothing. You have people that have wealth, paper wealth, and you have a market that's very dangerous. You have debt that's not fixable. You have a dollar that buys less every year, year after year after year. And you have to ask yourself, what's going to happen to my savings? What's going to happen to the savings of my kids, next generations, if things happen and continue the way they're going? I don't want to have nothing. What can I do to protect some of my savings? Because the dollar is pretty predictable. It's going lower.
With the latest stimulus programs, and we've seen a lot of them, where is our national debt headed?
Well, unfortunately, it's headed exponentially higher. Reagan took office in 1980, and we had a national debt of $900 billion. George Bush took office in 88. Our debt was $4 trillion. Clinton, $5.7 trillion. Bush, $10 trillion. Obama, $20 trillion. Trump, $28 trillion. Today, we're near $30 trillion and climbing. We could be 40, 50 trillion over the next few years. Spending is out of control. It's not going to stop, whether it be pandemic, economy, bad market, housing crisis, whatever. Stimulate things. The only thing that the government and the Fed and every central bank of the world can do is print money. And it's a serious problem.
When you say print money, perhaps a better explanation of that for those of us who are laymen. I mean, you print money. You have to print money to replace the money that's out there that wears out. I mean, that's how probably most of us think when we hear the term printing money, but it's a different terminology to you, isn't it?
It's kind of like having a credit card with an unlimited limit.
Hmm.
Eventually, that's going to end very badly. And of course, over the last 50, 60, 70 years, the Federal Reserve and the central banks are supposed to have a mandate. You know, the role of the central bank should be just to control the money supply of a country. It's not to invest in bonds and stocks and all that stuff. The central banks of this time period have overstepped their boundaries. And it's a period where paper money and debt is a serious. We're talking almost a quadrillion, $2 quadrillion. The numbers are mind-boggling. But the problem is that we are in a situation of debt. We are in a situation of easy credit. And that's going to continue to force our paper money, the value of that, down. And as an investor, let's keep things simple. How could I protect a portion of my nest egg so I know that it will be there and it will survive the next financial crisis, which is on its way very quickly and could start at any time? And that's where physical gold, Dave, comes in. That's where it's always come in.
And we're going to talk more about the value of physical gold and how it not only holds its value, but has the ability to grow in value when other areas of the economy are receding. I mean, the numbers you're giving are very foreboding. Later in our time, we've looked at sort of the domestic side of this. Later in our time together, we're going to look at what's happening with international monetary policies that pose a danger to our individual wealth. But first, in light of the ballooning national debt, how does gold provide a hedge against inflation and a possible market collapse?
Well, historically, gold has always kept up with the cost of living. Gold has always had value. I mean, even all the way back to the Roman Empire. But I think that people need to understand with an age and a period of such complexity, so much speculation. There's a lot of gambling going on. I'm not even sure that if everybody knows that's that is investing right now, exactly knows exactly what they're doing. There's a lot of speculation. But gold has always provided a foundation of good monetary principles. Gold has always provided a way to get through crisis. Gold has always been a store of value. Gold has always typically kept your buying power. It's returned about 10% a year annually since 1999. And with everything basically now going out of control, speaking of debt, speaking of credit, speaking of bubbles, real estate, stocks, the fact is that the price of gold could be significantly higher over the next 5 or 10 years. And at the same time, the dollar should be significantly lower. And that's a big difference when it comes to protecting your savings.
Coming up in a moment, we're going to have our featured precious metal product of the week, and I always look forward to this. I want you to know that you are listening to The Gold Standard, brought to you by the Midas Gold Group.
I'm here with Midas Gold Group's senior trader and Marine Corps veteran, James Clark. James, why are people investing in gold and silver?
Well, Dr. Gorka, the Federal Reserve supplies money to pay for congressional spending. As Congress expands spending, the Fed has no choice but to keep printing money at an accelerated rate. This causes the dollar to fall and gold to increase.
So as the Fed and Congress devalue the dollar, what can people do?
As the nation's #1 veteran-owned precious metals dealer, we offer diversification strategies in the form of precious metals. As Congress looks to the Fed for more money, investors look to gold and silver to protect their nest egg.
And I recommend that you look to Midas Gold Group for all your precious metal needs. Call Midas Gold Group for their guide to owning bullion and coins today. 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653 or MidasGoldGroup.com.
And we're back with more of The Gold Standard with Ken Russo from Midas Gold. If you live in Los Angeles or the Phoenix area, we encourage you to visit our local office to meet with us in person. For the address and directions, just log on to our website, MidasGoldGroup.com. That's MidasGoldGroup.com. And for those of you listening in any of the other cities that we're heard, just call us directly at 855-322-GOLD, and you can ask us your specific questions. Again, 855-322-GOLD. If you want to write it down by the numbers, that's 855-322-4653. Today on our featured precious metal product, we have, and I'm really looking forward to hearing you talk about this, the gold Krugerrand. It is an absolutely stunning gold coin, and apparently it has a very interesting history.
Yeah, it does. It's one of the first gold coins, Dave, that a lot of the old timers of Midas Gold Group traded. A lot of the gold investors out there, it was a coin that was first struck in 1967. It's a coin that is 22 carats in purity, so it's a little browner in color than, say, some of the 24 karat gold coins, but it's a mainstay. It's a coin that I would say has stood the test of time. It's very well known, a lot of liquidity throughout the world, very popular. The gold Krugerrand does not qualify for a gold IRA, but it could be purchased and held in your own possession through liquid funds and owned in your own possession. It's a coin that we expect to appreciate significantly over the next few years, assuming the price of gold goes up, which we definitely feel that will happen. Paul Krugman, who's the long-running president of South Africa, or is on the front, and on the back is an antelope-like character. It comes in silver, comes in gold. It's a great coin. It's a mainstay, and I think that it's kind of one of those classical pieces that every investor should at least consider putting a small part of their wealth in, especially when we're talking about diversifying. And what I want the audience to realize is gold should be diversification. It should be wealth preservation. You should be able to own it, put it away, and forget about it. It will be there when you need it. That's how it should be looked at, not at every day. It's not a pattern. It's not a technical breakout. It shouldn't go up or down based on news. You should own it, diversify. It will be there when you need it. And the gold Krugerrand is a great way to do that.
This is quite a coin. It's pretty amazing. And if those who are listening want to actually see it in person, they can go and log on to the website MidasGoldGroup.com, MidasGoldGroup.com, and just navigate your way around in there, and you will be able to see the gold South African Krugerrand, and you'll be able to read more about its history than we've even had time to talk about, and you'll get a chance to really see what you could actually possess, what you could actually hold in your hand. I mean, this is gold you can hold. This is gold that can be sent directly to you securely, safely, and you can keep it in any number of safe type of containers that you may wish. A lot of people will put these in a safe deposit box or in a secure safe as well. All you have to do is get a hold of the Midas Gold Group. Log on to that website, MidasGoldGroup.com, MidasGoldGroup.com, or give them a call and talk with them more about this at 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-GOLD, or by the numbers 855-322-4652. Coming up in just a moment, we are going to talk specifically about how to invest in gold and silver and other precious metals. You're listening to The Gold Standard, brought to you by the Midas Gold Group.
Sebastian Gorka here. The Biden-Harris administration is governing through an unprecedented number of executive orders. We have a good idea of what their agenda means for the country and for your finances. More debt, more regulations, slower growth, and higher taxes. There's even talk of a digital wallet currency and a so-called Great Reset. With massive new spending programs, the Fed is printing money even faster than before. This will likely cause the dollar to fall and gold prices to rise. That's why it's never never been more important to own physical gold and silver, and the dealer I trust to do business with is veteran-owned Midas Gold Group. The experts at Midas Gold can even help you convert a portion of your IRA into physical gold and silver to stabilize your portfolio against the coming storm. Call Midas Gold Group for their guide to owning bullion and coins today. 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653 or MidasGoldGroup.com.
You're listening to The Gold Standard with Ken Russo. If you live, by the way, in the Los Angeles or Phoenix area, we encourage you to visit our local office to meet with us in person. For the address and directions, just log on to our website, MidasGoldGroup.com. Again, that's MidasGoldGroup.com. For those of you hearing in other cities, call us directly at 855-322-GOLD. 855-322-GOLD. By the numbers, that's 855-322-4653. Now, so far today, we have talked about the falling dollar and how that is a threat to every American. And we've highlighted a very popular gold coin valued by precious metal investors, the gold Krugerrand. And now, Ken, let's turn our attention back to the stability of the dollar on the international market. How does an individual investor protect themselves from the falling dollar and the loss that it has been seeing in purchasing power?
Yeah, and possibly a much bigger loss going forward. The more money that's printed, Dave, the more supply there is. Over 20% of the money supply was just printed out of thin air last year. And the problem is that the whole world is doing this. They're just creating paper currencies with the stroke of a computer key. Gold is obviously something that has to be mined, nurtured. There's only so much of it. So it's always had value. A lot of the people who today have seen history matters. History repeats itself. And any currency that's been a fiat currency, paper currency, has failed throughout history. Many world powers that had world currency systems that were printed money systems have failed. All the way back in the 1700s, there was a French Enlightenment writer and historian called Voltaire, and he famously said, fiat currency eventually returns to its intrinsic value, which is zero. People have to understand that Weimar Republic had severe hyperinflation, Soviet Union. It's very silly to feel that situation couldn't happen here. And hyperinflation is the collapse of a currency. The dollar has experienced world reserve currency status for the last 50, 60 years, and that's been a huge advantage for the demand of dollars, but that is slowly slipping away. And it would be really silly for anybody out there to have stocks or savings, any type of nest egg that's completely in paper, to not diversify, to go into something that has a long historical track record of increasing in value, keeping your buying power, and giving you wealth preservation. It would be silly. It would be stupid. And if you have the ability to talk to people like Midas Gold Group about wealth preservation and diversification, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by talking about it. I think it could save a lot of people over the next 5 or 10 years.
It would appear, unfortunately, that we might be like the proverbial frog in the pot, where the water is heating up slowly and we don't notice it until it's too late and it gets us. We may be watching and in the midst of the final stages of the process that you are talking about, watching it unfold right now.
Yeah, and COVID could be the trigger. We've had debt problems for decades, and they've slowly increased. The world debt, global debt, was about $20 trillion back in 2006 during the last crisis, and now it's approaching 300 trillion. So there was no world debt problem that was fixed, and we could be seeing the final stages here of our financial system the way that we know it. And like I said, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know the future. We're not doom and gloomers. We're proud patriots. We're a veteran-owned dealer, and we're proud of that. Dave, it would be silly in an age of speculation. We could be in the mother of all bubbles, real estate, stocks, all of that stuff. We're not advisors, but I would tell you it would be silly and dumb to have all of your assets just in paper, leveraged assets, nothing in your control. It would make a lot of sense to look at the historical record of money and gold and to have a portion of your assets that you could hold, control, and be in your own possession that has typically gone up over time and held your buying power. It's absolutely necessary to get through the next financial crisis to have a portion of your assets in physical gold and silver. It's as simple as that, Dave.
Ken, we have people listening right now who are seasoned investors in precious metals, and we have others who are listening who have never even considered this and might even perhaps have heard a little bit about it, but because they don't know anything about it, they are hesitant to even begin to get involved in it. Indeed, a little bit scared, because when it comes to our money, if we don't understand something, we will not put our money on it. We get afraid of losing our money. So perhaps you can give us a little bit of reassurance. How does gold preserve and grow the wealth that we have worked so hard to create? How does it do that?
It's a commodity that is limited. You can't print gold out of thin air. It's a precious metal. It's not something like money where it could just be printed out of thin air. There are some assets, and listen, everyone has been a beginner in whatever they're doing at one time. Nobody, Dave, was born an expert, okay? And all we're talking about is simple money principles, a good foundation. You don't have to speculate with 100% of your money in one of the most dangerous markets in history with the most leverage ever. You can take a portion of your assets and have it into something that has been money for 3,000 years, something that has always had value, something that will be there when you need it. Like I said, this is about wealth preservation, and it's good to have facts. It's good to have somebody that you can count on. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on here at Midas Gold Group is being very reliable, very trustworthy, and a great source of information. It is not going to hurt you if you make that call and learn about gold, learn about silver, and learn about wealth preservation and diversification. It's very important.
Your comments prompt me to ask you, there are a number of gold and precious metal companies out on the market. What distinguishes you from the rest? Why would I buy my precious metals from you? What's the advantage to me?
There's a lot of companies out there, Dave, that advertise for gold and silver. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the gold industry that are not dependable. We've been told through the 11 years of our existence, the nation's #1 veteran-owned gold dealer, that we're very reliable, very trustworthy, very dependable, that we give great service and great information. Now, for a portion of your wealth, a significant portion of your wealth, that you're looking to protect for you and for your nest egg and for your future generations. Isn't that exactly the type of people and company that you want to deal with? Very reliable, very trustworthy.
And that brings us to the end of our time together here on The Gold Standard, brought to you by the Midas Gold Group. A reminder, advice given here is not intended to be specific to your investment strategy, but rather general information to give you a better understanding of investing in precious metals. For answers to your questions, call the Midas Gold Group at 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-GOLD, or log on to MidasGoldGroup.com. Again, that's MidasGoldGroup.com. But be sure to call 855-322-GOLD. The Midas Gold Group is proud to be America's #1 veteran-owned gold dealer, supporting veterans' causes with a portion of profits donated to the Wounded Warriors Project and the Semper Fi Fund. So your investment in your future is also an investment in the future of those who have bravely served the cause of freedom. Again, the number to call to speak directly with the Midas Gold Group is 855-322-GOLD. If you want to do it by the numbers, 855-322-4653. I'm Dave Deno with Ken Russo. Join us again next week at this same time for another edition of The Gold Standard.
The Gold Standard was brought to you by the Midas Gold Group.